Welcome back, puppies, to Barking Dogs Miniature Painting Video. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can support us on Patreon. So for this video, we're going to be working on this guy's base. The miniature itself is already finished, other than a clear coat to help protect it. But I'm going to wait to do that until after I paint the base. And to paint the base, I'm going to be basing the base in Game Air Earth. And the reason why I've chosen this is because not only do I want to start with this as my base tone, that's really not what it's going to end up being. It's going to be a little bit more of the red spectrum, and then it's going to get a highlight. But for right now, we're going to start with this color to help knock out some of this orange. And one of the reasons why I chose this is because, again, this line of paints from Vallejo is very thin. And so it'll give me a nice thin coat, and it'll leave some of that texture that's already naturally on the base. And then once that dries, I'm going to use some of this distressed crackle paint. Not over the whole base, but just over a little spot of it. Maybe there was a puddle there. Maybe it's part of a dry creek bed on some alien world he's running through. And once this dries, because this is a paint by itself, but it's clear, I'll actually go ahead and go back over it with some of this, and then I'll give everything a wash. It's actually one of the colors, so I'm going to mix a mid-brown with the red tone, and then I thin that down a little bit, and then I'll hit it with a dry brush of some model color Iraqi sand. So I have some earth from Vallejo's Game Air line, and I'm just going to start putting it on rather liberally. One of the things I like about these Game Air paints is that because they are thinned down to run through an airbrush, I can put this on without really having to thin it down, and it'll still leave that rough texture that's on the base already. Now, to cover up some of these spots where I overpainted, most of them will cover up actually pretty easy even with a thin coat, but some of the darker ones might require a second coat, but I'm not going to worry about it a whole heck of a lot because, again, this is just the base. I'm actually going to end up putting 2 or 3 more layers of paint on here before it's all said and done. So, main thing is just trying to knock out as much of that orange as we can. Okay, so for this next step, I'm going to be putting crackle paint down, and the one that I'm using is actually clear, and the reason for that is I'm going to paint it whatever color I want to. I've experimented with this one in the past, and I've mixed it with other paints to get the colors that I wanted, and I think the best way that I've found is just to actually put it on clear and then paint over it, which is what I'm going to be doing today. And also, if you notice, I already have these 3 little stones there. They're actually just, I believe they're originally some kind of cork. It came in a Army Painter basing kit. And I already have them super glued to the base. I've already shaken this up quite a bit. So we're just going to apply it. And then sit back and wait for it to dry. And then we'll come in and I'll throw a wash and a dry brush. Now, since I just want this to look like it was either a puddle or maybe it's at the bottom of a dry creek bed, but I don't want there to be a whole lot, I'm only going to apply some in this little area right here. I am going to put it on kind of thick. Just in this little spot here. Alright, I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I'll see you when we come back. Alright, for this part of the video, there might be some noise in the background because I am filming while my family's home. So, I'm going to apply a wash to the base now that the crackle paint has had time to set up. And that was a barking dog. Yeah, that's what that was in the background. So, to do a wash, I'm actually going to mix some Army Painter Quick Shade Red Tone. It's 2 parts red tone to 1 part dark tone, and then I'm just going to add roughly an equal amount of that mix of Airbrush Flow Improver. And I just mix it up in a little cap. So I got 2 parts of the red tone. One part dark. And that was a fairly generous amount of the flow improver. I'm just stirring it with a stir stick here. Actually, I think it's a stir stick. I got it at a hobby store in a big bag of stir sticks. I'm going to apply it very liberally. I'm going to go over these bits of rock that are glued on there. It's actually some kind of cork, I believe. But this helps tie them into the rest of the soil composition of the base. Just going to get out any air bubbles. Might take up a little bit of excess here. Alright, we're going to give that a little bit to dry, and then we'll be on to the next step in the process. Okay, so now we're back. The wash has dried, and we're getting ready to dry brush the base with some Iraqi sand. My bottle's almost empty here. I need to go pick some more up. This is one of my favorite colors for doing bases with. Trying to find the right dry brush here that I want to use. Again, dry brush, if you're unfamiliar with it, just get the paint on your brush, paper towel, just kind of wipe off the excess. You start dragging it across. I want to make sure and hit these rocks pretty good. It's getting the grass tough anyways. Right there. I think I'm put a little bit of glue down. And that actually works a little bit more. Actually, it helps it quite a bit because you still have a little bit of the cracked earth here with the crackle paint. And then there's some vegetation growing right there that doesn't look like it's doing so good because it's been dry a while, so it's starting to lose some of its color. I think I like the way that turned out. Alright, for the last step in our process, I'm just going to get some black paint and go around the base, around the lip here. I just bumped the camera. And I do put this on pretty thick. I know some people like to use different colors, but I always feel using black actually accentuates all the color and all the other work that you've done on the base. So I always paint my rings or the rims black. And this will be the final video installment for these Rangers. I'm not a 40K player, but I have really got, I don't want to say I fell in love with them because that's a bit extreme, but I've definitely taken a shine to these models, to these actual cyborgs, and I picked up a box of some Adeptus Mechanicus Skitarii, if I remember right. They're the same type of cyborg or similar, and they're wielding blades. They look pretty sharp, and they look like they're going to be fun to paint. But that's going to be my own project right now. I got to get this commission done and get it back to my client. Pew pew. He's ready to shoot some gene stealers.
If you like the work you saw in this video and some of the images you're seeing now, I'm available for commissions. You can reach me through messaging me at Facebook, www.facebook.com/BarkingDogStudio. Patreon supporters get discounts on commissions as well as credit at the end of the video. Special thanks to the Clarks for their continued support. Bark on, puppies.